Your performances this year. You had, was it 41 against Urbandale? You're not the kind of kid that goes out and says, hey, I'm going to get mine and I'm going to put up 40 tonight. Talk a little bit about when a night like that unfolds, you're in the zone and things just happen naturally. Talk a little bit about how that game came to you.
Well, we was playing really bad first half, and then in the halftime in the locker room, it wasn't too well with Coach Horner. So we just came out, and then my teammate was like, just take over, and then we have your back or something like that. And then so I just took over, and we wanted to win. So.
Do you have any goals in college? What you want to do? What you want the team to do? I mean, it's a really tough. Big Ten.
The easy answer is get back to the tournament.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the Big Ten is
not that
really,
I'm a fan of the "let's be mad again" thing, but you want to get back in the tournament.
I'm just gonna go there and do whatever it takes to help the team. So.
Well, Peter, again, we have enjoyed this time with you today. We appreciate you opening up a little bit, and even though we couldn't get you to say anything bad about your coach, we still appreciate very much the time we had with you here today.
Thank you for having me. So.
Thanks for coming on, and we've got to pay some bills, folks. We will be back after a few short commercial messages. Stay tuned to Extra Points.
In 2014, healthcare in America will fundamentally change. You will need strategies and a plan to prevent the law from negatively impacting your business and your family. Holmes Murphy has a team of insurance and legal professionals with a deep understanding of healthcare reform. We are able to offer unique and innovative solutions to reduce costs that are not available anywhere else in the marketplace. If you do not have a plan in place to protect your business and your family during this critical time, you need to call Holmes Murphy.
For over 150 years, Gilchrist Jewett has been Central Iowa's home building headquarters. In 2000, we built a beautiful showroom that is second to none in Iowa. Many people don't know that Gilchrist Jewett carries doors, windows, cabinets, and a great selection of floor coverings.
Stop in today and see some of the finest products for your home.
The Gilchrist Jewett Idea Center, where your home building and remodeling ideas begin, at the corner of University Avenue and Ellis's Road in Waukee.
Welcome back to Extra Points. We appreciate you joining us this week, and we hope you enjoyed the last couple segments with Peter Jock. And Mark, it's interesting to actually sit down and talk to the young man. You hear about all the gossip and innuendo out there in the sports world. He was recruited to Valley, this and that and the other. Jake Sullivan brought him here from Africa, and the reality is he's a great kid that's living the American dream. He's come here, he's worked hard, and he's had people help him, certainly, but he's worked his way up, and what a great young man.
Yeah, he is. He, as you said, he has worked his way up. He's come a long way. He's going to go to college on a full scholarship. That's great. You know, there's a lot of movement among players in the Metro Conference. I mean, it's always been that way. And it's just really hard to know who's going where for what reason. You hear it in girls, you hear it in boys. And so, but, you know, if it's within the rules, it's within the rules. I do feel sorry a little bit for Roosevelt losing a kid like that. Really a good kid and someone who could have really made their team. And, you know, they've got the Bennett player, the kid over there, and he's good. And so it's, you know, you kind of feel for the school that loses out, but, you know, if you can improve yourself, then you do it.
Well, I've been an advocate for a long time in talking, you know, when I ran the sports commission, I had Mike Dick on my board, and I had certainly representation, Rick Wilco and other folks engaged from the boys union. And I used to ask them all the time, why don't you just institute a policy where these kids can't transfer? And if you do transfer, if it's one thing if mom and dad move, it's a legitimate thing, or there always has to be an exception to the rule. But right now the rule, it seems to me, is an open gate, and then, you know, every once in a while there's a hiccup. But I just don't see it as being a healthy thing for the kids as much as anything.
Well, the open enrollment isn't really for sports. It's not for athletics. It's so that you can have the benefit of going to the school of your choice.
Right.
And it's unfortunately it's been used by athletics, by coaches, some coaches, to recruit. You know, but you hear it all the time now. It's, you know, you've heard that the East girls recruit. You hear people from Waukee saying they took one of our players, you know, which it's harder to feel sorry for someone from a community like that.
From Waukee, certainly,
but it's, I don't know what they can do about it, but it's an issue.
Well, the reality is if you have good coaches, if you have a good program, you're going to be a destination. And you know, for the schools out there, the sad truth in our culture today is if you've got a program that isn't developed, if you've got coaches that are deemed as not as good as somebody else, you're going to have some of that. I go back to, because human nature is what it is, that's why you've got to address it from a legislative standpoint. You've got to address it from a rule standpoint, because the grass is always greener somewhere else. And you know, whether it's me or anybody else, we're going to move on, and we're going to encourage our kid if we think there's a better opportunity, even though that's probably not the case. So I think you got to have some additional rules in place.
Well, there's always going to be something. I mean, for years and years it was Dowling, you know.
Well, there's no question that
Yeah.
Dowling has
Well,
a
we
bigger
know that,
recruiting
yeah.
budget than most small colleges, but that, you know, that's understood.
That's the last time we get a guest from Dowling, but, oh, wait, I guess we're going to have one.
It's said in jest. I say the same thing to my friends at Dubuque, Wahlert, and Cedar Rapids, Xavier, and
It's an issue. I mean, it is. And it's complicated, and I don't think there's any easy answer to it. But that you want to keep it so that kids in the metro can move around as students. Some schools might have more of what they need, and that's a good thing. But it's got to be.
Well, yeah, you're exact. It is a complicated issue, because to me, the strength of the school should be the determining factor, not the strength of the athletic teams, and certainly every kid has a right to that. But we got to shift gears. As much fun as talking about high school recruiting and open enrollment is, you know, there's an issue dropped in our laps this week with the USOC and the IOC actually dropping wrestling, and in this state, you know, it's like a bomb went off. Somebody peed in the proverbial punch bowl, and I'm not sure how big an issue it is in a lot of different states, but it is a big issue here, and I know you're an advocate for wrestling. I know that you probably wear a singlet in the comfort and privacy of your own home whenever you have the opportunity.
I've got one on right now, as a matter of fact, but
I'm interested to get your take on wrestling and really the state of the sport now that the Olympics, it may not be definitive yet, but it's on its way. We're 99.9% of the way towards it being dropped in 2020.
Well, you know, the universities now, they have the revenue sports, and they don't call them non-revenue sports. A lot of times they'll call them Olympic sports. And gymnastics and wrestling are Olympic sports. No one would argue with
Do you know
that.
anything about gymnastics?
I don't know anything about it. I like
How
the
many
sport,
of
but
your
I don't.
daughter's meets did you watch in your life?
I didn't miss many, I'll tell you that. But that's what is called an Olympic sport. And they're called Olympic sports for a reason, because they go back a long, long way. Wrestling goes back 800 years or whatever.
One of the original sports.
Right, one of the original sports. And the Olympics is the ultimate for a wrestler. I mean, they live their life to get to the Olympics.
Yep, yeah, I see this, and you know, would Dan Gable be the icon he is were it not for his performance in '72 in Munich and not surrendering a point? The answer clearly is no. As much of an impact as he's had on wrestling as a sport and other things, you know, I can play devil's advocate. Let me start by saying it's a travesty what occurred, so let me just be on the record as that. The flip side of that is, you know, that I love the business of sport. And that's something most fans don't. That's, you know, if a fan wants a coach fired, they don't care about buyouts. They don't care about 6 years left on a contract. They don't care about any of the other things that go into that. They just want the coach gone and a new coach brought in. You know, it seems to me, and when I hear Tom Brand's comments the other day about how wrestling may have been culpable in being dismissed, was maybe they didn't consider the business of the sport enough, and maybe they didn't address that. The competitive aspect of it, they're all over. But maybe they didn't address the business of sport so much. So what's your take on the business of sport, and is there a legitimate reason that can be found?
There is a legitimate reason. There is a legitimate reason, but you can't tell me that dropping wrestling is going to make them more money. I mean, there are only so many dream teams, so many, gymnastics meets. I mean, they make money in gymnastics and track and swimming. Swimming is another one.
Swimming sell out or get better ratings? I don't know.
There might be a handful of sports that actually are money generators, and so when you're getting rid of the ones that don't make money, you've got to be careful that you're not ruining the tradition of the Olympics.
And that's where I come back to. Again, you and I are really not smart enough to understand fully the ramifications of that decision.
I would agree with that, yeah.
Finally, something we can agree.
Yeah.
But what
Casey would not agree with that.
Well, yeah, that's just a whole different ballgame. I don't think we need to take the conversation there.
Go ahead.
I think the reality is they had a rationale for making this decision. They had a rationale for keeping table tennis and synchronized swimming and field hockey and things like that. it almost has to be a cultural thing. And I know that wrestling is big in certain countries around the world, but I'm wondering if it's not big in some of the larger population bases that the Olympic movement relies on.
Well, I think it's interesting who is into wrestling. And one of the, I think, interesting things is that Olympic wrestling is one of the few things Iran and the United States agree on or have in common. I mean, but I don't think you can, but you're right, the powers that be in the Olympics are not wrestling countries.
Yep. Well, as much fun as I like talking about high school recruiting and wrestling, we got to pay some bills. We'll be back with more Extra Points right after this.
Hiring decisions are extremely important for the success of any organization.
At Palmer Group, we place top talent with hundreds of Central Iowa companies each year.
Palmer Group can be your solution, whether you're looking for temporary staff, contract professionals, or a full-time team member.
We've built our reputation on placing quality people with the area's finest employers.
Palmer Group, Central Iowa's employment solution since 1998.
You remember all those fad diets like the grapefruit or the cabbage soup? Those diets promised the weight would magically disappear. None of them were long-term solutions. What will work is a sensible diet and exercise. But you'll need a plan, commitment, and professional support. That's what the Y does best. They have the finest facilities and equipment and a professional staff trained to help you succeed. If you and your family are serious about living an active, healthier lifestyle, why wait? Join the Y today and let tomorrow be the start of a healthier you.
Welcome back to Extra Points. Wrapping up this week's foray into mediocrity is our Extra Point, brought to you by Mark Hansen.
Thanks, Al. You'll never see Kobe Bryant or Roger Federer or Phil Mickelson talk about the Olympics the way Tom Brands did this week. That's because tennis and golf pros and NBA All-Stars don't really care about the Olympics the way someone like Brands does. After the International Olympic Committee decided to drop wrestling in its quest for more, quote, relevant sports, Brands said the decision was worse than death because you can't control death. Now, you might find that opinion a bit extreme, but if you want extreme, look no further than the IOC decision. I will guarantee you that before the Iowa wrestling coach began his quest for the gold medal in 1996, he did not flip through his calendar in search of potential conflicts. But I have a hunch those superstar tennis players and basketball players did. Let's see, there's the French Open and Wimbledon and the US Open and that Nike shoot in Dubai. Didn't I just play Davis Cup? Do I really want to squeeze another event in there? Phil Mickelson will probably check to see how it affects his taxes. No matter how many times Tom Brands guides Iowa to the NCAA title, winning an Olympic gold medal will always be the highlight of his athletic career. Same goes for fellow Olympic champ Kevin Jackson at Iowa State. Granted, watching the original Dream Team in Barcelona was kind of cool. Watching Andre Agassi win the gold in Barcelona was kind of fun. But watching Roland Gardner's stunning upset of the Russian who hadn't lost in 13 years, that was moving. That, not the TV ratings, is what the Olympics should be all about.